So, Sophie Cunningham, it happened again. The WNBA have fined her again.
Well, the WNBA fined me for
Nose!
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll show up.
Greetings and welcome back, the Clark Update Army. I hope everyone is doing well. Today, I have another thrilling end. I hope you have a great time watching this fascinating film. Please stay with me until the very end since you won't want to miss what's going to happen next. Therefore, let's get right into today's video. Alright, let's get started. I am aware of the history of the WNBA. I am aware that squads of war from each of those locations brought us to this point. I am appreciative of that. In the wake of Sophie Cunningham's startling revelation that is shocking, the WNBA is in full damage control mode. Her shocking comment has sparked outrage, controversial conversations, and now a substantial fine meant to end the dispute. Did the league see this as going? Was it a bold stance for the truth, or was it going too far? Fans are split, players are murmuring, and tension is rapidly rising. This is the exciting story of the discovery that everyone is talking about, and there is no disputing that it is no longer simply about basketball. Sophie Cunningham's battle is shaking the WNBA. Sophie Cunningham is at the epicenter of a growing problem this season that the WNBA has never seen before. She has received 4 distinct conclusions. An unusual and harsh response from the league to a player who is still growing in popularity. It all started when Sophie directly criticized the officials on TikTok, calling them worthless following a game full of questionable calls made by the referee. That one conduct immediately resulted in a $500 punishment.
Guys, there was this TikTok that Sophie Cunningham came up where she is lip syncing a Sabrina Carpenter song where she's kind of calling out the referees. It's just like a fun little TikTok that she did. It's literally 10 seconds long. And she commented on top of the TikTok and she said, "at some refs." And then she posted this on her other social media pages saying, "I got fined $500 for this TikTok. I don't know why this is funny to me." Like, okay, gotcha, bud. Because there's not more important things to be worried about with our league right now.
Players and many supporters were taken aback by the decision, but Sophie didn't let up. Instead of just defending her, she expressed her frustration on a podcast by elaborating on her earlier comments, revealing a deep and widespread many players' dissatisfaction with the league's officiating. This bold move led to a $1,500 punishment, which was far more severe. If you like this content, you might want to subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Surprisingly, almost 93% of viewers haven't signed up yet. It's quick and free. However, it is very important to us. Have you already subscribed? Fantastic. I sincerely appreciate your help. Now, returning to the video, the WNBA has issued a strong message by fining her an astounding $2,000. Sophie was unfazed by this statement, though, and the entire basketball community has noticed the commotion. It caused an immediate and severe backlash. As hashtags supporting Sophie began to trend worldwide, social media platforms erupted. Supporters voiced their outrage by highlighting the league's obvious contradictions. Cunningham was punished multiple times for being truthful, whereas Caitlin Clark, over the previous 2 seasons, another exceptional player who has dominated games and garnered significant attention, has not been penalized. This discrepancy further increased the public's anger and confusion. GoFundMe pages appeared almost. Enough funds were raised in a matter of hours to cover Sophie's fines. Thousands of people signed petitions in record time. There was a loud and unambiguous appeal for openness in officiating and equity in the application of sanctions. For change. Why punish a player for bringing attention to a problem that so many people believe exists? Why ignore the calls for better refereeing and accountability? Sophie's story has more to it. More than simply fines and annoyances. It depicts a league at a pivotal moment. The need for integrity, the dispute between players and officials, as well as the question of fairness, are all bubbling to the surface. As support increases and voices become more powerful, the WNBA is engaged in a fight that could alter its future. The consequences of Sophie Cunningham's bold stance have only recently begun to materialize. What happens when bravery and control clash? Will Sophie's struggle result in change or have unanticipated consequences? The next chapter will tell everything. Keep an eye on Sophie Cunningham and the conflict. Regarding free speech in the WNBA's reaction to criticism is very different from other major basketball leagues. NBA players like Draymond and legends like Charles Barkley In addition to their talent, Green has built entire careers on their blatant honesty. Specifically, by openly criticizing the game and its flaws, Barkley became a well-known cultural figure. Fans look forward to and applaud this kind of candor, which is part of what makes sports unique. Sophie Cunningham's story, however, is quite different. When she publicly denounced officials, the response was unnerving. For not protecting players, especially Caitlin Clark. She was merely venting her annoyance. The next time, a league official pulled her aside in front of everyone and issued a warning that went. It conveyed a clear message that free speech is not acceptable. They're going to catch you again. It went beyond a typical punishment in the WNBA, and that there are dire consequences. The WNBA seems to follow a more stringent code of conduct where speaking. Contrary to the NBA's ethos of free communication, it has serious consequences. This cannot be ignored. Discrepancy, which poses significant questions regarding the culture the league seeks to promote. Nevertheless, the WNBA's attempt to silence Sophie Cunningham has resulted in something very different from what was intended. Their punishment has only made her voice louder and increased awareness of the officiating issues she revealed. The typical Strurian effect is exemplified by trying to conceal a subject only to make it enormous news. In action. Taking into account the present problems with Caitlin Clark's unpunished cheap shots, the irony becomes even more evident. Fans have noticed a worrying trend. It appears that the NBA is more likely to penalize players for their comments than for questionable or dangerous on-court conduct. What message about justice and what priorities does that imply when the penal system emerges and responsibility becomes elusive? Unfairly, how can trust grow? Sophie's criticism was straightforward and honest. I would admit that I often, if I were a referee, I would make mistakes. It's a difficult job. However, what are you doing when a simple call-in is consistently overlooked in front of you? What are you doing? That's a question that impacts more than just one individual or game. It raises concerns about the league's officiating's general integrity. There is more to the problem than merely one player or one fine. The NFL's officiating only draws attention to the WNBA's serious issues in this regard. To be much better. How long can a league endure when those who want openness and justice face penalties rather than answers, is a query that observers, athletes, and fans all have. Sophie Cunningham's fight is about more than just penalties and inconvenience. The league's entire survival is in jeopardy, and the outcome is yet uncertain. The air. So what's going on behind the fines and silence? Could Sophie's struggle reveal anything the WNBA is desperately attempting to hide? Stay connected. Everything could be destroyed or significantly changed by what happens next. WNBA officiating issues with Sophie Cunningham. Have you ever experienced anxiety following a WNBA game because you believed wasn't the competition fair? This ongoing frustration has been highlighted by Sophie Cunningham. She willingly acknowledges that officiating is a challenging profession, but what truly concerns her is the league's uneven officiating. This has to do with a trend that is becoming more difficult to ignore. It's not about a few sporadic missed calls. This inclination can be seen in how teams alter their play, how players voice their dissatisfaction following games, and how supporters react with increasing fury. Sophie's bold remarks weren't made in a vacuum. For years, the WNBA has been attempting to subtly avoid this horrible wound, but they have ruptured it. And great illustration of the problem is the recent occurrences surrounding Caitlin Clark. During games, without a single whistleblower, great players are frequently the subject of cheap shots. Previously rare, both players and fans are enraged by these instances, which are becoming all too common. Social media and the stands are flooded with inquiries. Why are these violations not punished? Why does it appear that the league disregards this? The voices of seasoned players, newcomers, and supporters from around the country. What's going on with the referees? Many people ask questions, but the league's response has been should punish loud gamers, such as Sophie. Some might think about charging $500 for expressing annoyance to be a little penalty, but it only makes things worse. These repercussions have made Sophie's story a rallying cry. Instead of easing tensions, her podcast discussion regarding the fines caused the WNBA's officiating difficulties back into the spotlight, escalating the conflict. Despite the fact that refereeing issues are a problem in other professional leagues as well, the difference is remarkable. It seems that the WNBA is more eager to punish words rather than deeds. Although unfair or dangerous plays often go unpunished, players who speak up run a significant risk of sanctions. As a result of this mismatch, the gap between the league and its supporters grows. Rather than fostering trust and Instead, it is driving them away and stoking resentment toward a system that is becoming more unfair. How long can the WNBA last? To disregard the voices calling for openness and justice before the cracks beneath the surface become apparent? Sophie Cunningham's courage has exposed more than just officiating flaws. It has sparked a fight for the league's integrity and future. However, what if Sophie's silence was just the beginning? How far would the league go to maintain its dubious reputation before everything collapses? Stay in contact to learn the truth. When examining how major sports leagues resolve referee conflicts, there is a discernible difference between the NFL and the WNBA. The NFL maintains a stronger sense of responsibility despite high-profile mistakes, such as the infamous Saints game no call in 2019. The decisions made by the referees, who are considered experts, are publicly examined and discussed by players, fans, and the media. Players can voice their displeasure with officiating without fear of consequences. This openness promotes trust even in the face of mistakes. The WNBA, on the other hand, seems to be in a completely opposite path. One that places more emphasis on silencing critics than on solving the real problems. The league's decision to give Sophie Cunningham $500 and then an extra $1.05 has resulted in outrage and drew heavy condemnation. Supporters flooded social media with petitions demanding better officiating and openness, proving categorically that silencing a single player only serves to fan the flames of rage. This is a powerful statement that goes beyond a transient response. The public will no longer put up with unsolved problems or secret decisions. Inadequate officiating leads to considerably more. Research indicates that there is more damage than simply changing game outcomes. It erodes trust. Fans start to doubt the league's legitimacy and equity. Due to their fear of fines and penalties that deter candid conversation, players start to hesitate to voice their opinions. This cycle of distrust and silence has the potential to totally alienate supporters, jeopardizing the network of support for sports and future growth. Sophie Cunningham's tale illustrates this problem. While she may have profited greatly from using her strong beliefs, she would have received hundreds of dollars, but she was never trying to create drama for her own gain. Videos of her discussing referees received thousands, if not more, of views and sponsorships. Instead, she chose to attack the referees directly, even calling them worthless at one point. Despite the negative consequences of that candor, it also acted as a rallying cry. It's incredible that players and fans aren't giving up. Social media noise demands honesty and transparency and is more than simply pointless banter. Sophie's comments did not cause the commotion. Comments. They just highlighted a problem the league has been facing for a long time. The WNBA's response has shown. Because suppressing criticism just makes the issue worse and increases calls for responsibility. As this movement grows, the league is at a tipping point and may choose to confront the officiating problems head-on, or risk offending the same community that backs it. The stakes have never been higher. So high. At this point, the WNBA has to decide whether to confront long-standing issues or muzzle its critics. What hidden causes are behind this urgent crisis? What happens next will redefine everything. The WNBA's battle with criticism and legitimacy feels like something out of a strange bureaucratic nightmare. That a player would be fired by the WNBA simply for discussing her own penalty. It's perplexing, even Kafkaesque. Not because it reveals some deep irony, but rather because it demonstrates how disjointed the league seems to be the result of its own issues. Sophie Cunningham described in detail on her podcast how her general manager informed her of yet another fine by calling her aside in front of the team. Sophie's comments were inadequate. Despite acknowledging that certain referees are exceptional, she was unable to overcome the league's strict penalty structure, and that their task is really challenging. The problem is more complicated. Sophie and other players wouldn't feel the necessity to voice their complaints in public if referees were consistently rendering the right decisions, maintaining order on the court. This suggests a serious decline in officiating standards. The league became somewhat irate by escalating punishment instead of addressing the issues and turning them into a much bigger issue. The issue seriously and making an effort to improve. What began as a single player's complaint has developed into a major discussion concerning the limits of league authority and free speech. In addition, the timing couldn't be worse. The WNBA is currently facing criticism for creating a hostile environment in which open criticism is handled, with penalties and threats, at the same time that the Wall Street Journal released an opinion piece stating concerns about potential violations of Caitlin Clark's civil rights. The league's capacity to. Media outlets are questioning whether there is an atmosphere where players feel comfortable speaking up. The way the league reacts to different situations is astounding. Players like Caitlin Clark have been the target of lethal hits for over 2 years. DJ Carrington nearly injured Clark's eye, while Marina Mabry gave a nasty blindside. Nevertheless, these incidents haven't had many significant consequences.